And we will start. Good morning, everybody. I'm Barbara Derrick, Executive Director of Smoke Free SC, and we're happy to have you here today. It's good to see so many of the faces I saw on Wednesday. It was a great conference, and I'm glad that you all were able to join us today. We're very excited to have our speaker, Parker Smith from the Minnesota Department of, and I can't remember exactly Department of Health. Okay, what you were called. Every state is different now. We had the pleasure of seeing Parker at the NCTOH conference last August, I believe it was, or June, and August. And I just loved his presentation, and I thought what they had done with this campaign was so innovative. And so, since not a lot of us from South Carolina got to go to the NCTOH, I thought it would be great to have Parker come on and tell us what they're doing in Minnesota. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to him.
Awesome. Thank you all for having me. I'm going to share my slides. Quick 1 second. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see them. Sweet. All right. All right. So like Barbara said, I gave a presentation at the last NCTOH on just one of our campaigns at the health department in Minnesota. But today I'm going to walk through that and a few others. And if we've got time toward the end, I'll give you a peek at one we just launched this year. But some background, I work at the Minnesota Department of Health. I've been there since about July 2013. And before I started, Minnesota had a pretty budget for youth counter marketing work, but one of our administrations in our state nixed that before I started. So basically, our funding had dropped to pretty much nothing for youth specific prevention and counter marketing campaigns. But while I had been working at the state health department, we've been doing a lot of work with our partners on the ground to raise awareness of vaping. We've been getting a bunch of data through our Minnesota specific surveys. And through those data releases, the work of our coalition, the work of our grantees, we finally were able to secure funding again for youth counter marketing work in 2021. And that funding was used to set up an entire initiative, which isn't just counter marketing work, but we have a cohort of grantees that are doing youth prevention work on the ground. We've got a youth advisory council. We've got some organizations funded to provide technical assistance and training for youth engagement. And then on the back end, we've got some extra capacity now to evaluate some of these efforts. So what I'm going to talk about is just one component of our youth e-cigarette prevention and cessation initiative work. So for the counter marketing campaigns, before we set anything up and launch the campaigns, we did do some formative research. We got some youth together for an online panel. We used D-Scout. And it was only about 25 or so youth, but they were spread throughout the state. Some were involved with some of our grant programs, youth groups. Some were just random kids that we had recruited. But we wanted to know what their perceptions were of vaping and what they thought of that compared to other issues. And even within the topic of vaping, what are some key topics that they're concerned about? And so what we had learned through this is that youth these days, Gen Z specifically, is very accepting and open. They know vaping is not good, but they also don't feel like it's their place to intervene and be that buzzkill for their friends. So those are some key findings. We also learned that when talking about vaping specifically, core topics that come to mind are vaping and its impact on mental health. As you know, we're learning a lot about the impact of nicotine dependence on mental health. What we're seeing now is that that cycle of nicotine dependence can worsen symptoms of anxiety and depression, which, you know, a lot of teens turn to vaping to relieve stress. So it's that double-edged sword in a way. Also, industry influence, an important topic they want to know about, as well as vaping and the environment. So after those learnings, we turned to campaign development with some overarching goals, primarily fostering that peer-to-peer engagement, getting youth to talk to each other. For messengers, like we can talk to them as adults and tell them what the dangers are, but they're more likely to take their friends seriously compared to adults in their circle. Through this effort, we launched a handful of campaigns since 2021. We started with Hey Norm, bottom left quadrant there. That was our first campaign. So where we put some money for paid promotion. We had built out this Room to Breathe brand, which is meant to be uh, like a one-stop shop, so to speak, for youth. They want to learn about vaping, but also how to quit or how the industry influences them. That's like the overarching brand or place that they can go to learn that. But then some other smaller campaigns, Escape the Vape Video Challenge. I'll talk about that a little bit. And then our new campaign launched this year, The Time I Quit. A little screenshot of that bottom right. But first, the brand or the foundation for all of this, Room to Breathe. This is meant to be that trusted source of information for youth on health and wellness. We know that they're not going to go to our health department website. So what's this other place that they can go to that doesn't seem so adulty? It's primarily a digital campaign. We've got the Room to Breathe website, but we did pull together some Room to Breathe ads. Youth are seeing them as they scroll on social media. And this was also built with other topics in mind. At the same time that we were launching this campaign, we had a lot of discussions about cannabis. Laws were changing here in Minnesota. We're very cognizant of those use rates now that it's legalized. And there's also work to set up a youth prevention campaign here for cannabis. And so how could that be tied to this in some way or another? And I'll talk a little bit about how it's been expanded. But just a little glimpse of some of the ads behind Room to Breathe. This is what we might have on our Room to Breathe Instagram. More or less passive ads. If you go to Instagram, you'll see them, but these aren't the ads that show up in Reels as they're scrolling. Those are more like these vignettes. So one of the first things we did with Room to Breathe after we launched the website was pull together a collection of 8 short 15-second videos on the different topics about vaping that youth told us they cared about. And I'm just going to show you one or two of these. Some important things to note. The voiceover, who you hear, are actually youth that were involved with our youth groups. We recruited them to help with the voiceover. And then also the messaging and scripts. We got their input on what those sounded like. So just a few examples of these. This first one is voiced by Quinn, who's graduated now.
My friends and I thought we were in control of our vaping, but Big Tobacco knows how to pull our strings. They lure us with flavors and hook us with nicotine. So I decided to break free, because I'm not anyone's puppet. Find Room to Breathe. Visit aroomtobreathe.org.
So that was the vignette focused on industry targeting. One topic that youth specifically talked about was personal relationships, how vaping gets in the way of their friendships, and that inspired this
Vaping
one.
didn't take up much space in my life at first, but as time went on, the only relationship I cared about was my relationship with nicotine. Don't let vaping get in the way of what matters. Find Room to Breathe. Visit aroomtobreathe.org.
And that was Ari. I believe she's a senior now. And then one more, I believe this is Quinn again.
When life got stressful, vaping was that instant relief. But the thing about a quick fix, it never really fixes anything. Feeling underwater? Help is out there. Find Room to Breathe. Visit aroomtobreathe.org.
So those are just a few of the 8 vignettes. Those were running on digital media as people scroll. And out of the 8 of them, Marionettes, that very first one I showed you, is the top performing, the one that got the most click-throughs and full views. In addition to the vignettes, so those are 15-second vignettes. 15 seconds was intentional because that's about the amount of time you've got their attention before they scroll on to the next thing. But we also learned with different platforms that there was a need for some longer and shorter videos. So that one on the left, I'm not going to play these unless we've got time. I can circle back. But the one on the left is our longer 30-second video. And then the 2 on the right are actually short 6-second videos. And they were specifically created for YouTube. There are some options for paid media for non-scrollable ads, ones that you're kind of forced to watch before you can view whatever content you're actually there for. And it's that 6-second window. So for these, I'll just play one. They're very simple. Not a lot you can say in 6 seconds, but it's mostly meant to grab attention and get you to click right away.
It feels good to be vape free. Visit aroomtobreathe.org.
And what we found is that these 6-second assets actually performed better than any of the other videos, better than any of these other animated videos. We also used teen-created videos for some Room to Breathe ads, and these performed better than any of the animated assets that we have.
Ooh, Tina, look at these cool vapes. Should we get some?
Nick, of course not. Did you know that the vaping industry targets teens like us? With colorful packaging and exciting flavors? Look, this is a vape compared to our Sour Patch Kids.
I can't believe the industry is taking advantage of us like that.
That day, Nick left with something, but it wasn't a vape. It was a lesson that vaping isn't as sweet as it sounds.
For those youth-created assets, I'll talk a little bit later about how we got that content. It wasn't necessarily created for this campaign. Youth created that for a contest that we have separate from this effort. We also created some digital ads for community online media. So there are a few news outlets that reach specific populations here in Minnesota. For example, The Circle reaches our American Indian communities, Lavender, LGBTQ, Sahan Journal, some East African communities, El Minnesota de Hoy, our Spanish-speaking communities. So we had gotten these ads, tailored them for those specific communities, and are running them on their online news space. And for Room to Breathe and all of these efforts, again, that youth engagement piece is really important. So we did pull together a youth newsletter. This goes out quarterly. Youth can sign up from the Room to Breathe website, but it includes stories about youth work being done through our grantees, updates from our Youth Advisory Council, promotion of our youth quitting service, and then new tools and resources. A lot of times this comes from the Truth Initiative or other organizations that put out content on this topic area, but we'll include some of those in this newsletter too. And this was one of the more recent developments with Room to Breathe. Washington State pulled together this wellness journal, not this last NC2H, but the one before that. I actually met the folks from Washington State, saw this journal, and thought this would be a great tool for our Room to Breathe campaign. So we adapted it for our use here. And it's actually a hard copy printed journal. I usually have some on my desk here. We're planning on my, but you can go to the QR code to see all that includes. I believe it's a 64-page journal broken out into five sections that you can fill out. There's a section on exploring their interests, their values. There's a section on self-discovery, a section on meditation and rest. Lots of tools to help kids sort of like find that alternative to turning to vapes when they're stressed out. We've got a limited stock that we give to youth as they request them. There's a form they can fill out on our website. We also provide them to our grantees to hand out to youth at their youth events, but also for cities and counties or other organizations in the state. If they want to print some for youth in their network, we can work with them, get them the digital file package. And then if they've got a printer in their community, they can print their own stock. And I think we've had about 3,000 copies printed through those partnerships alone, which is cool. And that's just the beginning. And then also with Room to Breathe, we just added a youth testimonial. There's 19-year-old Max who reached out to our health department, I want to say a little over a year ago. He's struggling with vaping and trying to quit, and wanted to tell someone, wanted to do something to help kids. So we thought, why not record an interview, put it up on the Room to Breathe website. The truth is, like, yes, we don't want youth vaping, but there are already so many that do. And there are so many that are stuck in this cycle of nicotine dependence. They might be ashamed, they might feel alone. And so it's important that we lift up that experience and let them know that they're not the only ones struggling. there are other teens out there going through this as well, but it's possible to quit and there's help out there. And so the testimonial was put on the website for that purpose, to let teens know that they're not alone. So overall, with Room to Breathe, the campaign performed at or above benchmarks for most paid media spots. The 6-second short videos performed better than the longer ones, which was surprising for me. The youth-generated PSAs performed even better than the animated or other ads that we put out and had professionally done. And then when we've got paid media flights out, we have about an average of 12,000 site visits per month, which is awesome to see. We did win a national award for the Someday Room to Breathe ad, a longer video. I didn't show it, but I can share that after the presentation if there's time. Which was just reassuring that we're on the right track with this. In the advertising space, it was held up as an excellent PSA, but also the traction we're getting with youth getting to the website and clicking through on these ads, we're on the right track and it feels good. So that's Room to Breathe. I forgot to mention, if you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will try to get to them as we go along. But now I'm going to switch to Escape the Vape. So those teen-created PSAs came from this contest. We've been doing this about 6 years now. It's an annual contest where we ask youth to create 30-second videos on their phone and submit them. They can win cash prizes. The current prize is, I believe it's $500 for the winning youth video, and then their school also gets $250. So cash prizes, their first through fifth place, they all win something. It's that top prize that wins the $500. And we started this in 2021. It's modeled after a similar video contest on anti-tanning that they had been running here at our agency in 2014, which did so well. We're like, why not just adapt it for some of these other topics? And then this is also a collaboration with a few other organizations in our state, like our University of Minnesota, one of our grantees, Tobacco Free Alliance. And we've had some other nonprofit groups and clinics actually either sponsor or assist with the contest, which it wouldn't be possible without their help. And their help is important too, especially for the prizes. So we can't use our state funds to give out that prize money, which is why the sponsors are important because they help fund the prizes. And David, you got a question about where did the new funding come from in 2021? That's actually state funding. Our governor did a tour of schools in 2019 to highlight the issue of vaping, and then the state was able to allocate funding in 2021 for these youth prevention efforts, which is excellent because federal funding is such a question mark these days. So Escape the Vape, here just a few videos that youth pulled together. I'm just going to show one. These are from 2024, and these were our high school winners.
Come on, bro, just hit it. Come on. Oh, bro, we gotta go.
I ain't running from that teacher, running from my addiction. Hit a vape, now I can't escape, it's causing ill afflictions.
But the flavor's good and it feels real nice.
That's just a depiction, they keep lying so you keep buying, that's just my prediction. Your lungs fried, your lungs fried.
You might be wrong and you might be right.
I know I am, it's in your head like it's programmed. Took a hit, just one, now you feeling for that buzz. You just a kid, go and live your life, don't try it just for the fun.
So it's just one video. Every year we get hundreds of videos for this contest, and it's always surprising how creative youth are, especially middle schoolers. We have this set up where we've got a middle school division, they compete amongst each other, and a high school division. And I would say the middle schoolers are funnier. They're a little bit more creative. Their video skills are about the same as high schoolers. It's amazing to see what they pull together. Some rules for the contest. We do require parental consent. We've got forms that they can fill out in advance of submitting their video. Students can participate as individuals or as a group. If it's a group and they win that $500, they do have to split it amongst themselves. So if I were participating, I'd probably do it individual, but group work can be fun. Videos must be 30 seconds long. They must include at least one vaping fact and a call to action. Um, yeah, David Tim Walls, pretty great. We have a vape or a contest guide on the website. I'll have the URL for that in a second that outlines all these rules, including the key facts and the calls to action that they could pick from. I mean, they could come up with their own, but for this contest, it's helpful to lay out some of those in advance. And then, of course, the videos can't contain copyrighted material, images of vaping, or other inappropriate content. All of these things we laid out in that contest guide, which you can find at mnescapethevape.org. For the contest, we usually announce it, put out save the dates in about November. We try to reach out to educators and like youth coordinators of different organizations earlier on just to let them know the contest is coming because we're trying to promote this as a classroom activity. For health classes, we found teachers love to use this as a classroom activity on vaping and drug use prevention. Also, multimedia classes. So the classes where students are learning how to, deliver the news or create videos or do the school newspaper. It's an excellent space for that as well. So we try to announce it early in November. The contest opens for submissions starting in December. We recently expanded that submission window to run from December through January, just to give them that winter break to be able to pull together videos. February through March, we have a youth panel that helps review the videos and narrow them down to a group of finalists. And then in April, we announce the finalists, we announce some public voting, and we give the public about 2 weeks to vote, and then winners are announced in May. And these are just some of the metrics over the years. You can see it hasn't always been super great. In fact, we're seeing this year a decline in submissions, but there are a number of things we're thinking about too. Teachers have a lot they're trying to pack in. That's one thing. But also middle schoolers that participated when they were in middle school probably aren't going to participate when they're in high school. We're trying to, figure out those nuances and trying to, I guess, adjust the contest as we go. This is the 6th year we've done it specifically on vaping, but we're also thinking, with nicotine pouches and other products, how could the contest evolve and how can we keep it interesting? Some other things that we've been considering as we go, qualifying submissions. So for a few years, we struggled getting so many videos that ended up not qualifying because there were minor errors or facts that were misstated. And so we changed the process where we can flag those videos, give them a chance to revise and resubmit. We're also trying to encourage school involvement. So how can we get this in the classrooms, whether that's a health class or a multimedia class? We actually did work with a few teachers to pull together sample lesson plans. And they're not on the Escape the Vape website. Those will be on our health department website. But we do have them listed. So teachers that are interested have something that they can model it after if they're going to use it in the class. We're thinking about additional topics, so it might expand to include cannabis, nicotine pouches, or other things in the future. And then video life, all of these videos, it's great content. So how can we use these in other ways? And as you saw, the Room to Breathe campaign, we were actually able to take a good handful of videos from this contest and turn them into real ads that we used for Room to Breathe. And as you saw, those perform better than all of the animated ones. So a contest like this is useful for creating content you can use in a campaign. And that was Escape the Vape. Has the participation engagement of the PSAs reduced the vape usage at the winning schools? And unfortunately, I don't think I can say either way. We haven't dug into the data like that, but that's a great question, Vanessa. In Minnesota, we have what we call the Minnesota Student Survey. It's a census survey, so we try to get all schools to issue it. And that might be a good question for us to start thinking about. For the schools that do heavily participate, we should be able to see their district rates and if those have changed. So I don't have an answer, but maybe I will because I'm going to pose this to our data and epi folks. All right, from here, I'm going to move into Hey Norm, and this is the campaign that you all saw at NCTOH. This campaign ran from 2023 when we started launching these campaigns, and last ran in 2025. No longer have these ads out there in the world, and also this hotline is no longer active, but that's not to say it won't come back in the future. So 1833 Hey Norm, what is this about? One of the learnings from that initial audience youth insights, again, youth know vaping is bad, but they don't feel like it's their place to intervene. They don't want to be the buzzkill. And so this was really a campaign to try and start those conversations and get that peer-to-peer vape talk started. So the whole idea is we've got this hotline. If you've got a friend or family member that you're concerned about, you can call 1833 Hey Norm to learn about creative ways to start that conversation. This hotline, again, a real hotline that youth could call. They could also learn about the harms of vaping. They could also find information on how to quit. And it was meant to be a mix of entertaining and real information, all delivered by this guy named Norm Davidson, who is a fictitious character. And we kind of modeled him after Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul and Bill Nye. We wanted him to be this quirky dad or uncle-like figure who you can poke fun at, but he also really cares about you and wants you to do the right thing. One of the important things when we were going through this casting process, we did have a group of youth together to help us pick the actor, which was fun. And I will say through all of this counter marketing work, anytime we have gotten youth input, they always seem to pick the opposite of what I think they're going to pick, which is frustrating, but also I think is a testament to how and why it's important to really take your youth audience insights seriously. Like we are talking to youth, not adults. So it's important that we're resonating with youth. And if they tell us, hey, this is the guy you got to go with, that's important to know. Anyway, so Norm, this is our long form video, which gives you some insight into who Norm is, what his service is, and also shows how he played around with humor. And I will say, as a millennial and someone that grew up in the 90s, this was, I guess it was a little fever dream pulling this together. We shot this all in one day. We were in the basement of someone's house on one of the lakes here in Minnesota, in their basement with the wood paneling and all of that retro decor. I hate calling it retro, but I guess that's what it is now. And we tried to put in those like gems, those hidden nuggets. So you'll see throughout, like, they're just some weird, quirky things. Like the fish plaques on the wall change from shot to shot. Anyway, I'll stop talking, and here is Norm.
Are you concerned vaping is hurting your friend? Does the thought of confronting them about it make your stomach churn like a butter factory? Hey, we've all been there. Hi, I'm Norm Davidson, CEO and proprietor of 1833 Hey Norm, Minnesota's first and only teen-focused vape talk service. What the heck does that mean, you ask? Well, that means I'll confront your friend about vaping for you so you don't have to be the buzzkill. I've helped nearly 11 teens talk to their friends about the harms of vaping, and I am eager, I am desperate to help you too. My services are 100% anonymous, so your friends will never know who sent me. Yeah, I'll even tailor the conversation to best fit the clientele. Choose from topics including...
I put that Post-it on his shoe.
Hey Riley, very cool jacket. Did you thrift that? Hey, someone close to you wants you to put down the vape. Did you know that nicotine actually worsens anxiety and feelings of depression? It'll literally mess with your head. Did we get? Hey, Jordan, love that look. Super metal. Hey, you know what else is metal? The chromium and nickel from these vapes. Yeah, leads to some serious respiratory diseases. Even cancer. Maybe cut it out with these things, huh? Haircut couldn't hurt either. So, this guy. Hey, Peyton, I hear you're into the Nick stick. You're not just polluting your body, you know. You're also polluting the earth. That's right. Vapes are hazardous waste after all. And if it's bad for the planet, it's time for you to ban it. If it's bad for the earth, then it's not worth it. All right. Bettering lives has never been less confrontational. Still not sure 1833 Hey Norm is for you? Wait, there's more. If you call in the next 17 minutes, you'll unlock exclusive access to my catalog of conversational styles. Choose from styles like casual, really casual, coach, aquatic, Macarena, megaphone, hoagie, magician, undercover teen, and many, many more. That's a value of over $25.99.99, all yours absolutely free. What could you possibly be waiting for? It's like I always say, if you're concerned about your friend, have the vape talk. If you're concerned about your friend and your vibe, let Norm do the talking for you. Don't wait, say, Hey Norm, today. To order, call 1-833-HEY-NORM. That's 1-833-439-6676. 76 or text Norm to that same number. You got Norm. They're not there. They're not there.
So I think that video is entertaining. Pretty proud of it. I will say this video, the long form, full 3 minutes, isn't what was out in the world as they were scrolling. I'll show you shorter snippets. We basically took some of that content, broke it down into smaller videos. And again, I'll show you what those look like. But again, this campaign was all centered around the hotline. So when youth called, they were met with a phone tree. They could pick from a few different options. If, for example, they were with their friend and wanted Norm to talk to their friend, they could actually press 1 and then hand their friend the phone. It was a pre-recorded message, but a message from Norm nonetheless. Pressing 2 would get you advice on having those conversations. Again, facts on vaping. Pressing 4 would transfer you right to My Life, My Quit, which is the youth cessation service we have here in Minnesota. And then an option to learn more about vaping and mental health. We did put in there one completely unrelated option. If you press 6, it's just Norm trying to find his phone. Before we updated the hotline, it was Norm trying to sell his jet ski, but it's one of those hidden gems or nuggets for the humor of it. And then some shorter videos that we ended up putting on social. We had a number of them, all in varying lengths, and I'm not going to show them all, but the ones that got the most traction, the most click-throughs, the most views were some that he didn't even say anything. It's just him being weird. And here's the one that had the most views.
Clack, clack, click, click, clack, clack, clickety, clack, clack, clickety, clack, don't vape.
Well, I take that back. He did say something, but it's just interesting what youth are interested in, what they click on. And this campaign gave us a lot of content to test that with. So again, these were all on digital media for the most part. We use platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, and I will say, while our agency, we're not allowed to have a TikTok account, for some of these platforms, you can pay to put ads on there even if you don't have an account, which is important to know. Digital media or paid social media is not my expertise, so I learned a lot through this process working with our marketing contractor. But we also had some ads on streaming, Spotify, Pandora, and that was just the digital side. We did have a little bit of a budget for out of home, so we had some billboards, a mobile billboard, which we had placed at different malls, places where youth gather. That very first year of this campaign, Taylor Swift was at US Bank Stadium, and so we had the mobile billboard outside that concert. We also have a light rail here. We did a train wrap and then banners in malls. This was new to me. Video games, you can advertise inside them. So depending on the game, like that racing game, bottom right, you'll see there's a billboard in there for Hey Norm. And then we were able to build partnerships with some local sports teams. So our women's basketball, our Minnesota Gophers, we actually partnered with them to do a Hey Norm fan cam. So, as they're getting audience members on the big screen, it was just Hey Norm pointing at them. We did do some community events, so we were able to get the actor Tom Reed to come play Hey Norm for some parades. We got him in a convertible. And this was actually my first time being in person at an event like this. And I'm in that picture, but that's not what's important. What's important is as we were walking the parade route, this is at Minneapolis Pride, it gave me the opportunity just to like hear and see the reactions to Norm. And it was eye-opening because we didn't have anything other than this 1833 Hey Norm banner and then us wearing Friend of Norm t-shirts. No other context about what the campaign was. And so we're walking through the parade route and you could just see the adults like, who's this guy? What is this? Like, what candidate is this and who are they representing? But anytime it was a pot of youth, they would go nuts. I've got the quotes there on the slide. They would talk about how they know him or they've seen his videos. And it was just interesting to see, like, our target audience, they're aware of him as we'd always hoped they would be. And David, you got a question. How are you measuring teen usage of cessation and the impacts of the Hey Norm campaign? I've got a little bit showing the metrics in a few slides here, but we did see a really good outcome from this campaign. We did work with some influencers. We had a handful. Leanne Miller on the left. We called him our Gen Z darling. It's just a lot of humorous content that he usually does. And then Jordan McLaughlin, Timberwolves player. The person in the middle, Crystal Sorum, is a mental health influencer. And then Jesse Diggins with the Winter Olympics, Eric Kendricks, a former Vikings player, just some of the others that we had. For this campaign, it was also important for us to work with our community partners. So we have that group of grantees I mentioned at the very beginning, but also partner organizations throughout the state. Like, what can they do to help extend these campaigns? Or for Hey Norm specifically, we were encouraging them to get youth groups together and engage them in the campaign. We had a guide that they could use, as well as sample social media that they could post, encouraging them to include Norm in newsletters or get their youth to write letters to the editor or press releases, or even to collect and lift up youth stories. And to help with that, we had pulled together some campaign guides at the forefront. So a social media guide, if youth want to post on social media about this campaign, we laid out the different messages that they might use, as well as some like social assets and graphics they could incorporate. We also had a similar guide for partners that talked a little bit more about the campaign overall, but also had guidance on logo use and branding that went with it. And then for a lot of our partners and grantees, smaller organizations that may not have the capacity to do paid media or may not know much about how to get started, we did pull together a paid media guide that outlines the different media channels, what might work better than others depending on the budget or the size of your organization, including some earned media options. So again, those letters to the editor, how to generate buzz with local media. And so David, this slide's for you. Our initial campaign launch period was from April 2023 through about August. That's where we did the heaviest promotion. This is a list of all the channels, media outlets that we had used during that period. Some out of home, that's the OOH. But then we've got the mobile video, social, the in-game advertising, event sponsorship. So all of that sort of happened in this condensed time frame. And during that period, we saw almost 11,000 hotline calls, lots of impressions on our media and click-throughs, millions of video views. It was amazing to see all that engagement in that short period of time. But that hotline, youth could also text it. And so we would get floods of messages, and this is just one. But one of them that I screenshot and show all the time, a youth that texted in saying like how we were able to help their friend, and that they're able to go do fun things. We'd had one I specifically remember about a teen and his sister that vaped. Um, it's just cool to see those messages come in. And then some other learnings from the campaign. When you've got a smaller budget, out of home, like the billboards, it's like the first to nix because it's hard to measure the impact and you need to do a lot of it. But we did do some and there was an impact. And in fact, a lot of what we'd see on social media from youth reacting to the campaign, we'd see them taking pictures of billboards and posting it. Oh, I'm sorry, David. It was the previous slide right here.
Yeah,
and I can share
all
I can share the
is,
slides afterward
all
too.
I'm seeing is you. I'm not seeing a slide. I don't know why.
Oh,
Are you still sharing
Yeah.
your screen?
I can see it.
Yeah,
You
me
can?
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might need to change your view, David.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, let me look. Where do you do that? Let's see.
I'll also share the slides afterward
Top
too.
Oh,
right
okay.
corner.
Upper right
Put it in.
corner.
Yeah. You'll see view and hit standard. You should be able. You might just have it on speaker.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm seeing the whole group.
No.
So not that one. Oh, now I see
Keep
it.
going. There you
Good.
go. There you
Yay.
go.
All right, so
Hey.
while you're looking at that, some of the other learnings we had. So out of home billboards did play a role, but I would always recommend, if you've got a smaller budget, digital media is where you're going to have the biggest impact. Some other learnings, humor was a good way to hook teens and get them to listen to the ads. And the evidence out there supports it for lots of different types of interactions. Humor, the use of humor helps break down barriers. And if you get them to laugh, they're more likely to listen to what else you have to say. And we were hesitant to even consider the use of humor at the forefront, but it worked out well with this campaign. Some other feedback, Norm, it's white dude, middle-aged white dude, not necessarily the person that's going to resonate with all communities. So we keep that in mind. This campaign isn't the only campaign, and which is why, Hey Norm only ran for a certain amount of time. If and when we bring Norm back, it'll be a different version of Norm. In fact, this last campaign we launched, a Hey Norm 2.0, was one that we considered, but not the one the youth chose. And that would have looked a lot different than the Hey Norm you saw today.
How did you create the norm? I mean, is it a AI generated image?
Real person.
Oh,
Yep, when we were considering the actor, we had a few names come to mind. Kenan Thompson was one. One of the late night hosts, I want to say Jimmy Fallon, but don't quote me. There were a few that we had like lifted up and we're like, we want this vibe. And so then we did a call for local actors to come in and audition. Ended up with 3 candidates, and then we had our youth panel help us pick the final. And so that is a local actor, Tom Reed, who does improv here in Minneapolis, who plays the part of Norm Davidson. I'm just going to roll back to my slide about the learnings. Oh, a few other things. So Hey Norm was a campaign talking to the do-gooders, so those youth that are concerned about their friends who are vaping. And one of the things that we often talk about is like we're trying to reach the youth that are at risk of vaping, um, not necessarily the do-gooders, the ones that we know aren't going to vape. But this campaign really had us asking, well, there's a role for them. How can we get them to talk to their friends and start these conversations, which is what the campaign helped us with. Also, cessation services. So the hotline, when we first pulled it together, you could press number 5 and it would rattle off all the information about our youth quitting services. We learned through this campaign that we needed to create a more direct connection. And so we worked with our quitline vendor and our marketing agency to make it more seamless. So if a youth were to tap 5 for quitting help, that it would automatically transfer them to the cessation service rather than have them listen to Hey Norm. That was just a span of time then that we would be at risk of them dropping off the call, and we wanted to get them to quitting help as soon as we could. All right, so that was Hey Norm. I've been doing a lot of talking, and I see like we've only got 10 minutes left. I could talk about our new campaign, but I also want to make room for questions and discussion. I guess I defer to you all what you want me to do next.
Do we have questions right now, or would we would like to hear about the new campaign? Somebody come off of mute and tell us.
Well, I'm curious what the size of your budget was, because you've done an awful lot in that 3 or 4 month period.
So the 2021 funding that came to our agency was about 4 million per year, but that's for that whole initiative. For the
Yeah.
counter marketing work, it's about 1.4 million for the year, which is a lot of money compared to what we had before. But all things considered, for marketing campaigns, it's not much.
Yeah.
We're trying to raise awareness and make an impact. It's important to have frequency and saliency. So you want your audience to see your ads as much as possible. And you need a lot of funding in order to make that happen. Which is why once you get to funding amounts like what we are working with, that out of home media, like your billboards, your signs, even radio and TV, oftentimes out of the question. Digital media is where you're going to get the biggest bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can share more details on budget, like spreadsheets and whatnot, so you can see how this broke down. When we first launched the campaigns, that first year, the budget was spent almost entirely on production. So from 2021 to 2022, it was all spent on getting the videos produced, the campaign set up, and then in 2023 is when we launched it and put all the remaining funds we had into paid media. And then the year after that, used funds to again place paid media, but we weren't really creating any new ads because that just eats into your overall media budget. That's almost a separate presentation, but I'm happy to chat.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to dominate, but one other question. Did you engage or pay a professional marketing agency, or do you have that kind of expertise?
We did pay, we contracted with Haberman, local marketing agency here in Minneapolis. We don't have the paid media expertise in our agency. And really, it was important for us, like as public health people, it's hard to have that expertise. And in fact, many agencies, they don't prioritize marketing and communications like they should. And so contracting out was really the only way that we could do something as effective, with collecting audience insights, assessing the different media platforms that were out there and which would be most effective. That's totally out of our wheelhouse. So contracting was the best bet for us.
Yeah. Okay. Impressive. I wish I could say that our South Carolina government would give us any kind of financial support to the degree that you received it.
Yeah, and it did take like a decade of work trying to raise awareness among our lawmakers. Fortunately, we've got a supportive administration, state administration that was able to help us get this through. And yeah, very fortunate, very fortunate. One thing I will say too, and for folks that are working with even smaller budgets, don't recreate the wheel. There are, like, for example, our Room to Breathe campaign, those ads are in the MCRC. So that's the CDC's like storehouse of ads that states contribute to this pool. And you can go to the MCRC, order those Room to Breathe ads and run them in your state if you want to. So then you don't have to pay for the production. There are other campaigns by other states in there as well. Hey Norm isn't in there yet because it was such a Minnesota specific campaign. Trying to tailor it in a way that other states could use it. I don't know if that's going to work, but it's something we're talking about. But MCRC was offline for a while. It just came back online this week. And so if Room to Breathe, as an example, is one that you're interested in, it should be there that you can order those ads.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions? Everybody see why I was so impressed at NCTOH with Parker's presentation. This is an incredible campaigns, and just so much to learn from him. No more questions.
David, you got a question about nicotine pouches. So right now, so our campaign is centered around vaping because that's what we had put in our initial RFP for the work. We are entering our last year of this marketing contract, and we'll be writing up another RFP that I think will launch sometime early next year. But I'm already thinking like our next effort needs to be a bit more broad than vaping because nicotine pouches are becoming extremely popular among youth. What we've done so far, I just got an agency webpage up on nicotine pouches for Minnesota Department of Health. But this next marketing RFP will include pouches. I'm going to try and write it flexible enough where even other products we haven't even like heard about yet could be the focus of a campaign in the future. And I will say too, what's been important, like this will have an impact on our Escape the Vape video challenge too. But our shift to the topic of nicotine, no matter the product it's in, has become important ways to message about these dangers without necessarily falling into the trap of having all of our stuff be centered around a specific product type. Those are definitely things we're thinking about.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Parker. This is a great presentation, a lot of useful information, and I know everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you again, and we'll give everybody, we got 3 whole minutes. You can start your Memorial Day weekend early. Thank you for being here today, and as always, this will be on our website and soon, and we will also put the slides up there.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you,
Great
Parker.
presentation.
Yeah. Thanks, Barbara. Same to you. Yep.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Parker.
Thank you, Parker.